Indira Gandhi National Open University presents a program for the students of Master of Journalism and Mass Communication, Master of Journalism and Electronic Media and Postgraduate Diploma in Journalism and Mass Communication titled Communication Research Part 4, Program Code MAJMC, MAJEM and PGJMC. Course code MJM020. The presenter of the program is Dr. Shikha Rai, Associate Professor, School of Journalism and New Media Studies, IGNOU. Let's listen to the program.
Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another session on communications research. In the previous session, we studied how there are different kinds of variables and how we make study of the message or the source or the receivers of media in communication research. We also talking about different kinds of variables and how they will be used in research context. Now here we will be talking about sampling. As you all understand, there is one whole universe or population out of which a certain sample is chosen, which is studied in order to understand that population and then to bring out the results of that study. So a population or a universe is the entire group of units which has to be examined. Say for example, the teenagers of Delhi. So here what we are talking about is all the teenagers of Delhi in different schools, in different areas, and then we choose a few units of them, which is what we call a sample. And what is a unit? A unit is the smallest part of the universe which can be studied. So in this example, it could be one single teenager, boy or girl. That is one unit of our study. All the teenagers of Delhi NCR will comprise the universe. And what we will do is we will pick up a sample from that universe and then we will study this. Brand managers' perception of social responsibility campaigns, a study of leading newspapers of India. Now, every brand manager here is a unit whose perception we will be studying. But how have we chosen this? That is what we call sampling. Out of the entire universe, the gamut of units that we have, we choose a certain section of it, which we call the sample. Another example can be coverage of crime against women in national channels, a study of prime time news of NDTV and Aaj Tak. So every story which relates to crime against women on any of these channels will become a unit. Then, it is also important to understand what is a census as compared to what is a sample. A census is when every member of the population is examined. So, if every teenager that we were talking about is studied, is spoken to, is interviewed, or is surveyed, that is what we call a census. But when we pick a small representative sample from that census, that is what is called a sample. So a representative subset of the population. And how representative is this subset? This subset that we pick as a part of our sample should be able to clearly represent every section of the teenage population of Delhi. Now, how is this sampling done? This sampling works on the basis of theory of probability, which states that if the number of chances are equal, every unit has equal chance to be represented. So if the number of chances should be so adequately defined and so adequately presented that the chance of any teenager out of all of them who are present in Delhi should be equal to all others. So when this is done, the sample is chosen on the basis of probability, which is a scientific method. Now, let us look at what this probability sampling is. When we select according to mathematical guidelines, where the chance of selection of each unit is known, that is known as probability sampling. And for all practical purposes in research, we try and make use of probability sampling until and unless there are certain constrictions, there are certain limitations due to which we will have to selectively pick our sample. That is what we call the non-probability sample. We will just discuss this. But before we go on to that, it is also important to understand the importance of picking your sample scientifically. As long as you're picking your sample scientifically, you are ensuring that there is no error or there is minimal error in your research. So, probability sampling actually allows the researchers to calculate the amount of sampling error which is present in the study, while non-probability does not. only when you know that you have scientifically picked your sample and you've put it to your study, you know what can be the margin of error in this. But if you have picked and chosen according to your own convenience, then you're not able to exactly underline what could be the margin of error which can be present in the study. So, probability sampling is important from that context. Now, let us look at the non-probability sampling. Like I said, non-probability is not as scientific as probability because there we are making use of mathematical guidelines to decide who will be a part of our sample and who will not be a part of the sample. But for non-probability sampling, this is something that happens only when there are certain kinds of restrictions or limitations on the researcher. So, what are the different types of non-probability sampling? One is convenience sampling, which takes into account the readily accessible subjects for study. So say for example, if I am going for a pilot study, it is all right to pick the sample conveniently. For example, when you're talking about shoppers in a mall, obviously you would be looking at those people who would be ready to spare 5 minutes of their time to speak to you about the brand that you are talking about. Or a group of students who are enrolled in an introductory media course. So they have no background information of mass media. They have not studied it in their school. So here you can make use of convenient sampling. You can pick and choose people who you think will be better suited or who have the time or who are willing to speak to you or participate in your survey, say for example. So this can be helpful in collecting exploratory information, but it may have unknown quantities of error. And hence I said that such kind of sampling can be made use of when you are looking at a pilot study or when it is an exploratory study where only you are looking at the chances of how good a study can this turn out to be or what are the chances of success of the study or whether the tool that you have formulated, whether it is being implemented properly and is fetching the right results or not. So for that, we can make use of convenient sampling. The next is volunteer sampling. Now, volunteer sampling is also a kind of non-probability method where we are looking at only those people who are willing to participate in research projects. And they can differ greatly from non-volunteer. So say, for example, when you say that you have a new brand of lipstick, let us say, for example, and then you choose some people who would be willing to try it and give you a feedback of how they liked it, if there are certain improvements that can be made. So here you will require only those women who are volunteering to take up your brand of lipstick or something which is they have not been using in the past, a brand that is new to them. So here you require volunteer sample. As compared to this, there is another kind of non-probability sample which we call purposive sample. Now this purposive sample is selected on the basis of specific qualities or characteristics. So on his or her own, the researcher will have to eliminate those people who fail to meet the criteria. Having said this, the researchers will have to select people who will use a particular type of product and ask them to compare it with a new product. Say, for example, we look at people who use Apple iPhones. So those who are non-users of iPhones will automatically not be a part of this. So this is called purposive sample. Then there is also another kind of sample which is called quota sample. Quota sample is a sample which is selected to meet the predetermined or known percentage of people. So this is something, say for example, how iPhone owners differ from non-owners again. So you will have to pick only, you may know that there are only 40% people who make use of iPhone. So hence this becomes a quota selection. Now, having said this about the non-probability sample, let us look at the type of probability sample. The first kind of probability sample which like I said, that it is based on the basis of, you pick the selection, you do your selection on the basis of mathematical guidelines. So one way could be the random sampling. This is a kind of probability sampling. What is random sampling? Where every unit in the universe or population has equal chance of being selected. All your non-probability sampling methods like volunteer, like purposive, or quota sampling, unlike them all, here in random sampling, each unit will have equal chance of selection. Also, the selection procedure must be free from subjective intervention by the researcher. So the selection procedure is such where you do not maybe prefer girls over boys for a study. So there is no such kind of subjective demarcation by the researcher. Only then the sampling becomes random. So this is why we say that mathematical guidelines are used, because we are providing every unit in the population a fair chance of being selected as a part of the sample. Then, as for mathematical guidelines, we also make use of random number tables here. When we talk about the random number tables, these are the tables that have arbitrarily written numbers. You can pick one particular number and at a certain interval pick another, and then third, and then fourth. So this is how you pick up your sample for population. Say for example, you picked the 5th, and then at an interval of 10th, then you picked the 10th one. At an interval of 5, you picked the 15 ones. Another interval of 5, you picked the 20th one. So this number 5, 10, 15 and 20 become a part of your sample. This is how we do it with the help of random number tables. Also, we need to understand what systematic random sampling is. So far, we have understood the concept of probability. We have understood the concept of randomness. Now we need to know what is systematic random sampling. Now, systematic random sampling is the one where every nth subject or unit is selected from a population. So this is what we make use of when we're talking about the table of random numbers. So, say for example, one has to choose a sample of 20 from a population of 100. So there are 2-3 things that we will need to determine as part of the systematic random sampling. One is the sampling rate. Since we are saying 20 on 100, it automatically becomes 1/5. What is the sampling interval? It could be, say for example, because we're saying every 5th candidate we are picking, so sampling interval will be 5. So 5th and then 10th and then 15th, so on. And sampling frame will comprise of everyone who forms the list of members, the complete list of members, the universe. So that is called the sampling frame. Out of this sampling frame, what we are doing is we are looking at the intervals and the sampling rate and accordingly picking the number of people that we require for our study. So this is systematic random sampling. The degree of accuracy and adequacy is directly proportional to each other. This means that how adequate your sampling frame is will decide how accurate your study to the adequacy of the sampling frame. After this, we need to look at what is stratified sampling. Strata, as the name suggests, is breaking down into different categories. When adequate representation of a subsample is desired, we make use of stratified sampling. Why? Because there is a possibility that there can be too many differences in the universe and it cannot be considered as one universe. So characteristics of strata may include any variable for that matter. It could be on the basis of age, it could be on the basis of gender, it could be on the basis of religion or income or many such other variables. So, to give you an example here of why stratified sampling is required, why do we need to break our sample into certain stratas, let us look at an example. Suppose you are trying to study the media exposure of people of an organization. Obviously, for all the obvious reasons, we know that the exposure to media of managers and manager level people will be much different from factory workers, people who are working on as daily wages over there. So when we are studying the media exposure, we will have to create different stratas or different categories of people. You cannot combine the media exposure of managers with the media exposure of the workers or the laborers there. So here in such kind of a condition, but all of them, since we are talking about the media exposure of people of an organization, everybody who's working in that organization will become a part of the universe. But stratas will have to be divided. And of course, one thing that we must know and remember in this sense is that homogeneity will always reduce our sampling error. The less the sampling error, the better the study becomes, the more accurate the study becomes. So one should try and make as much homogeneity in the various subcategories as possible. Precisely the reason why we have to break it down into categories. Next, we will look at cluster sampling. And cluster sampling is when we select the sample in groups or categories in the absence of complete sampling frame. Because we do not have that sampling frame, and there are certain kinds of errors that can enter in defining these initial clusters. These clusters are, what are we actually doing is, as the word suggests, cluster is a group. And this group is a sample. So every group that we pick up for study can have two kinds of errors which we must be on a lookout for. These errors could enter the study in defining either the initial clusters, maybe we have not defined the initial clusters properly, or it can be the error in selecting from the clusters. So say for example, you are looking at the magazine reading habits of people in Delhi. So here you will have to divide it, because Delhi is a big city. You'll have to divide it into north, west, east, south and central Delhi. So there can be one kind of error could be that you have not properly taken care of. Maybe central Delhi is very small as compared to South Delhi. So how do you manage that kind of a situation? How can you make those kind of clusters? That is one error that can enter. The second error would be that when you're picking people from that cluster, say for example, South Delhi, who are the people who you're picking? Are you picking auto wallahs? Are you picking people who do not have the kind of time to go through magazines? Or are you picking those people who is the intelligentsia and who continues to read on their digital devices or otherwise? So there will come a problem, because here this kind of an error must be terminated. So this is what we understand by cluster sampling. Then what is also important is what kind of method one is using. Which kind of, whether we're making use of probability method of sampling or we are making use of non-probability method of sampling. How are we doing our sampling? What are the factors that decide on this? The first is the purpose of study. So the purpose of study would mean investigating variable relationships or collecting exploratory data for designing or measuring the instruments. So whenever it is an exploratory data that we are trying to collect, we know that we can go for the non-probability methods of sampling. And when we are looking at investigating variable relationships, then we prefer to go for the probability methods of sampling. Another important aspect is cost and value. You are putting in too much of cost, too much of time, too much of resources, and the value, the outcome that research study is going to get is not going to have any remarkable value or use in the knowledge world. Then there is no point putting in so much of effort. So cost and value are two practical factors that one must consider when you're deciding which method one is going to use. And then of course the third factor is time constraints. There can be studies that may ask for longer durations of study, longer durations of experiments as compared to the others. So one should look at what is the kind of time constraint one has. Say for example, when you are doing a research for an advertising agency and you are checking whether a particular new brand of cosmetics will be a success or a failure, then you have a different kind of time constraint as compared to a study which is more academic in nature, which is being done to add something to the knowledge bank or to understand what are the gaps which are there, which you must weed out in order to make a good study. So those time constraints will have to be looked at. And of course, one important factor also is the amount of error that is allowed. In pilot studies, non-probability methods would do and non-probability styles of sampling would do. But if it is not just a pilot study or you're not just checking whether an instrument will be functional or not functional, in that case, it has to be a probability method of sampling. So those are the various ways how you decide what kind of sampling should be made. Now, sampling can be applicable to various methods. It is not just that we are limiting ourselves to surveys only. Now, having said that, it is important to understand which kind of method to be used and which kind of sampling method to be used. So I have given you the various kind of probability sampling methods as well as non-probability sampling methods. And I'm hoping that it will help you think and decide whenever you sit down to write your research projects, research proposals, you're able to decide how you're going to create a sample out of the population or the universe that is available with you. Learning always excites thought. And I'm hoping that this session has helped you excite your thought about research, about sampling, about the kind of study that you would want to do. Happy learning, everyone. I hope you stand benefited with this session. Thank you all.
You were listening to a program titled Communication Research Part 4, Program Code MAJMC, MAJEM and PGJMC. Course code MJM020. The presenter and content coordinator of the program was Dr. Shikha Rai, Associate Professor, School of Journalism and New Media Studies, IGNOU. The program was technically supported by P.P. Sharma, edited by Sadan Lal, and produced by Santosh Kumar Pandian. This program was brought to you by Electronic Media Productions Center of Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi.